Hello there and welcome back. All right, someone had asked me about advice on microphones and or recording software. I'm assuming for podcasting and or YouTube videos. I'll get to that in a future video. I will say that one of the pieces of software I use is Kazan Screen Recorder in Linux. It's been very reliable for me. And one of the hardware pieces I use is this webcam. It's a Logitech C270 webcam. It's only 720p, but that's okay for this purpose. But the built-in microphone is excellent in my opinion, and you can use just the microphone strictly for podcasting. But I thought I would separate this into a series of videos on how to podcast for uh, newbies, dummies, beginners, and again, I say that with all of the friendship and respect that I can possibly give you. And hopefully this will help you out. Okay, so how to podcast number one. Topic, define your objective, informative, entertaining, length, avoid graphics, music. What is your topic of the podcast? Let's say you choose a podcast topic, how technology relates to family values or how technology relates to social issues. I would say that's probably a good topic. Again, that's an example. If you want to use that, be my guest. So you have a topic, great. What is your objective? Define your objective. Is the objective of the podcast, is it to be informative? Is it to be entertaining? Or both, what I call didactic. That's my favorite word when it comes to entertainment. Didactic is your friend. The best of anything, the best movies, the best podcasts, the best books are both informative and entertaining. Now, it's possible to do a podcast that is strictly informative, and it's possible to do a podcast or a video that is strictly entertaining. That's okay, but from my experience in general, if you can have both elements in that content, you've got a winner. I think an example for me would be the Sooner reports, the Sunday night news and nonsense reports. Of course, with Spatry's Cup of Linux. I've done these for several years now. If you're wondering, I haven't done any this month. I've taken some of the summer off to enjoy the sunny weather and doing swimming, by the way, but I will continue doing those. But those Sunday night news and nonsense reports, they are both, they are didactic, they are both informative, and they are entertaining. In the beginning of the show, of the podcast, we'll have some information, whether it's Linux, Windows technology, and maybe how that relates to you, those specific news articles. In the second half of the podcast, we go into the nonsense mode, the oddball news relating to technology, usually that may or may not relate to you. It doesn't matter, it's entertaining. So information that may affect you and or entertaining that's just mainly to have fun and have a laugh. And I think that's why the Sunday night news and nonsense reports are successful, in my opinion. All right, so finally, length. As a general rule, I would keep the podcast as short as possible. Now, if you have a lot of guests, 3, 4, 5 more guests, that's a lot. You're probably going to have to do a longer podcast, an hour, maybe two. But I caution you, there are many podcasts out there on many topics. I usually listen to the technology podcasts, the Linux podcasts. They are informative, but I have to tell you, at times they are incredibly boring. Not to take anything away from the hosts, but I often find myself fast forwarding trying to get to the good parts or to the topic or topics that I want to listen to. It's just not very user friendly. Again, that is just my opinion. So keep the length as short as possible. I'll give you two good examples. Once again, the Sunday night news and nonsense reports. They are usually between me and my co-host Spatry and maybe somebody else, but between say 15-20 minutes. Say what we have to say, me and my guest or me and my co-host, get the information out there, get the jokes out there, and be done with it. So 15-20 minutes tops. Another good example, I think, where I have just one guest, the last couple of podcasts I did with singer-songwriter Stephanie Forian, a former YouTuber of the month, terrific singer-songwriter. Those podcasts generally are 30 minutes. The last one, Mac Talk with Stephanie, she uses only Apple products or a MacBook to create her music. So for those of you who like Mac, I don't have any Mac products, so I have an iPad. That is a good example of keeping the podcast short, to the point. It is informative and entertaining. I think I threw in a couple funny jokes there at the end. But I think the Sunday Night News and Nonsense Report and the Mac Talk with Stephanie Forian, I think those two are good examples, I think, of a podcast that is both informative and entertaining. I'll have links for those two below in the show notes. So try to keep it as short as possible. Finally, avoid graphics and music. You don't have to avoid graphics and music, but if you add graphics and music, it adds more time. The last podcast I did add graphics to make it look nicer. It did look nice. It looks great. But especially if you are new to this and want to keep it as simple as possible, I would avoid graphics and music altogether. No intros and outros. Get to the topic, get to the information, get to the jokes, and hopefully you will have a winner of a podcast. Now, as far as graphics, it's okay to have like a wallpaper, or for example, let's say Total OS Today's special podcast, special guest, so and so. That's okay to have a title graphic. When I mean graphic, I don't mean add multiple graphics, multiple videos, multiple inserts, music. That's where it can add hours to the editing of the final product. And really, starting off, I don't think that's necessary, at least in my humble opinion. So, to recap, have a topic that people will want to hear. Define your objective. I believe the best information, the best podcasts are both informative and entertaining. And keep it short as possible and avoid graphics and or music unless absolutely necessary. All right, so that's the end for this short instructional on how to podcast, the number one podcasting on how to podcast for beginners. In the next one, I think I'll talk about voice. Do you talk too low? Do you talk too high? Do you talk too slow? Do you talk too fast? The flow of the podcast, chemistry between the guest and the host, and stuff like that. That'll be in podcast number 2, and maybe in the third one I'll talk about hardware, software, editing, and stuff like that. So I hope you found this informative and useful. Let me know if you have any comments or advice. That's all I have for this one. If you haven't already, subscribe and consider supporting this Total OS Today technology channel. All right, well, I'm done. Have a good night, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.